Hey everyone, welcome to Nurse Talk. I'm Mike,
And I'm Chris.
and today we are going to be having a quick discussion on the Avengers Wartable live stream that happened this week, July 26th or 27th, I think it was, but basically it was just a couple days ago. And they showcased a lot more about Avengers, what to expect from both online and single player content, as well as some new characters and kind of what the future of the game looks like. But the majority of it focused around the beta program and when that's going to take place and exactly what's included. Before we jump into all that, let me just do some quick housekeeping here for everyone. So for those who are new to the channel, Nerds Talk is a community where we like to discuss all sorts of nerdy things, video games, movies, comics, collectibles, all sorts of stuff like that. And so if you'd like the content that we create, please definitely support us by clicking that subscribe button below, drop a like on the video, and of course leave a comment so we can interact with you. And if you'd like to share any future ideas of content you'd like us to cover, by all means send us an email to nerdstalkinfo@gmail.com. And with that, we'll get right into it. So Chris, Avengers Wartable live stream, what is your overall thoughts on what was shown there?
So the more I see, the more I'm excited about it. When they first announced it and then they showed that first kind of, previews and trailers of it, I was skeptical. I saw the trailer. I like the characters, the design of it, but I wasn't sure what the storyline would be, how much, who you could play and stuff like that. But seeing more and more, and especially this last one, has really got me excited. And I like the way that they're going with this. And we'll talk about it later, but the amount that they're doing for the beta and so on is just unbelievable, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. So I think this is a step in the right direction. They got some backlash after before the first Wartable, in regards to the people who play the demo were saying that it just didn't feel right. The graphics weren't there. They were worried about what kind of content this game would have and if this would have legs. The first Wartable, we already discussed that on a previous video. But, I liked what I saw. It seemed like it was a mini game, but it still kind of felt like there was something missing. Like I wanted to know more. And I felt like this particular stream explained exactly what the different missions are available to you, that you can do, the different types of modes, and that kind of gave me an idea of exactly how big a potential this game could be. Now, I don't have any idea how long the campaign is. It doesn't seem like it's going to be super long, but we do know there's a lot of single-player content for each individual hero that's aside from the actual main through story. So that's I like true. That, yeah. As they add new characters, you're going to get more story, single-player story content, or potential co-op. But it seems like even if that campaign is really short, and I'm saying short like less than 10 hours, which I don't think it would be, but if it is, there is more to come, which is good to know. And
free.
And
right?
absolutely
they
free.
announced as free DLCs and stuff like that, and characters and so on. So I think that's really strong for the game as well.
Absolutely. So let's kind of break down. So they started off with beta information. They talked about in the beta you're going to start off doing the original like origin beginning mission. What do they call it? D-Day or
A-Day? Was it the Golden Gate Bridge or something like that? The mission.
Yeah. And so basically what we've seen in the trailers where Captain America basically the ship that he's on goes down and he supposedly dies, and there's this big like kind of attachment.
The Avengers kind of split off, and there's backlash from the public and stuff like that.
So you get to play that mission. So you get to play in that mission. You get to play as each hero for a little bit to kind of get a taste of what they're about. And then it jumps forward in the story where you get to play as Kamala Khan or Ms. Marvel, and she's basically heading out into it looks like the jungles, like the Amazon or something like that, basically in search of Hulk at this point. Right, yeah. As the main Avengers Assemble campaign is what they call it, is her rounding up all of the Avengers and kind of getting them back together and whatnot. So we know that you play a mission there, and then of course it's very Hulk focused at this point, where you get to play as Hulk and get to smash things. Then you go from being outside to inside an AIM complex, I believe they mentioned, in the third mission, which is some ice Russia area or something like that, right?
Frozen lots of destructible areas where you saw Hulk running down a narrow hallway, destroying a bunch of stuff in between and stuff. So it's pretty cool looking.
Yeah, and it says everything opens up just like the regular game does. So as you do the first story, you're kind of on a mission to figure out where Jarvis was last seen. You have Hulk with you, and you kind of move over to this part of the story. And so we don't know how far these jumps are, but they open up different story missions as you progress, as it would in the normal game. And then they talked about, once you're finished with the campaign, they do have the multiplayer piece that is going to be available. Right. And they talked about harm missions. They talked about war zones and drop zones. And the harm missions are basically these holographic. I can't remember the full acronym. The holographic,
the war room kind of thing, like in X-Men, where they have the war room where there's all these holograms. You can do different waves of enemies and customize it. I think there's 3 that they talked about: wave 1, 2, and 3.
Yes,
and they get harder and harder depending on which level you choose. So.
Yep, and it's basically a training room of sorts where you basically are getting used to the character, practicing out their moves or combos. But it also, because of the challenges that are within them, you do need to make sure you're leveling up your team and equipping different abilities and working together to get through the tougher missions. And then as a reward, if you get through them all, they're giving you a nameplate, essentially like a prestige that's saying that not only did you play in the beta, but you actually beat this hard mission in the main game. So that carries over. In the harm rooms, you do get what's it called? You do get level up experience, so you can equip new skills and stuff. And then they kind of shifted over to the war zones, which is like the main multiplayer. What you're expecting to do with the majority of your time in this game. And they're basically big open world kind of sandbox missions where you have different points of interest as they described it. And you'll have different things where you might have to fight a boss, or you might have to discover essentially like these bunkers, different
puzzles in it as well.
Yeah, right? Puzzles open the doors and stuff, right?
Yeah, which is very interesting. It's going to have a big mix of, combat, problem solving, location, all that kind of stuff. And I believe they said up to 4 people.
Yeah,
either online or AI, right?
Yeah, and this is the beta. They didn't say that in the final build it'll be 4 people. I assume you could have a team of 5 or 6 if you have a whole team of Avengers. But right now for the beta, it's a team of 4, and you can use again your AI. So if you want to play solo, the computer will take control of your heroes, so not just random generated characters, but they go into your roster. The Iron Man you leveled up, the Hulk you leveled up, the ability skills, and that's what will be used and controlled by the AI on your mission. Or you can bring in all human players or a mix of both, depending on if you only have one friend that you're going to be playing with. So I like that it had that flexibility. That these missions can be played by yourself if you are someone who just wants to experience, on your own pace, or with friends, or a bit of both if you don't have a full group of 4 friends. So I thought that was really nice, especially in the beta where you don't expect to have too much available to you. And they talked about a bunch of different missions there. I think specifically they talked about 20 different missions from mixed between war zones and drop zones. Drop zones being a smaller version of war zones where it's basically one objective, and then at the end you get loot. Just like these point of interests, you might fight a boss, get some loot, open up a bunker, get some loot. So there's different areas, a lot of different objectives, a lot of rewards in a war zone. It's a lot more difficult versus a drop zone, which is get in, do this task, and you get rewarded and you get out. And it's a kind of a quick way to get new gear, get leveled up, get new experience before, I guess, tackling these more harder war zones. So they talked about 20 different missions that span across the war zones and the drop zones and the harm rooms. So between that and the campaign, there's quite a bit of meat on this in this beta, and I feel like it's going to be, the campaign it seems like it's 3-ish missions, and depending on how long you take to complete them, I would assume it's not going to be more than maybe an hour, 2 hours worth of content, and then jump into the online, which can be hours and hours, depending on how much time you're going to repeat the missions and how much you want to level up and sink time into customizing your characters. But before I continue, I mean, what are your thoughts on the beta so far?
I mean, typical betas are not this large. They're usually 2 missions, maybe 3 if you're pushing it, and then no extras that way. Most of the time is single player. Sometimes you can get dropped in, like Anthem. I know you could kind of get dropped on in with random people, but you weren't necessarily playing or doing missions with them. You were kind of just in the same common area, and then once you went to a certain more focused task that you're supposed to be going to, you usually split off onto your own and try and conquer it that way, just to get a feel of it.
Yeah.
So very interested to see how much they're actually offering. I know a lot of people were worried that the game might not have been done. That's why it was pushed back or whatever it may be. So it sounds like they have a lot, and they had a lot in the pipeline already, and that they have more coming even at launch date. I think they're not done announcing what may still be released on day one.
Yeah, I completely agree. I liked visually what I saw. The graphics look great. The abilities, the customization, which I haven't gotten into yet, but just the amount of uniqueness that you'll have with one experience to the next. While you and your friends will be going and doing the same missions together, how you accomplish them will change. How you fight and play in them will change depending on how you've customized and tweaked out your characters. So I like that, and you can do them in a variety of different ways. And then the amount of variety in the missions seems to be quite a lot to kind of keep things fresh. Now, how repetitive these missions will be, is it just changing the locale, but it's the same thing? They did talk about 50 unique enemies and 80 war zones essentially available at launch. So that's a lot. Like, not forget the single player campaign and all the individual story missions there, and then you have harm missions and stuff. But specifically, I think they specifically talked about war zones and not like drop
Correct.
zones and harms included. They talked about 80 different missions. So that's a lot of different material there. 50 different enemies that you can come across. That seems like it could be a nice variety type of an experience. I mean, I'm excited to jump in, more so than I was when they first announced the game. So
Same here. Yeah, I think people are going to have a lot of options, and if they get tired of playing one, they can probably switch over to another. And I'm sure there's enough variety that you can keep it fresh and new, and be engaged in the game.
yeah, absolutely. They also then went in forward and said that it's important to be able to play co-op with friends, so they made that as an option. And in some of the missions, like in the main game, some of the single player missions may be able to be played co-op as well. So you're not forced to play with a computer AI. You can bring your friend in and play that through that story mission and have someone controlling one of your characters. So I thought that was cool. If you want to play the whole thing multiplayer. Or I shouldn't say the whole thing, but the majority of it multiplayer you can. That was pretty cool. They then jumped in talking about future content and new heroes, and so they officially announced a brand new hero being Hawkeye. Everyone was asking where is he, if this is about the main Avengers. Hawkeye was a main Avenger. Why is he not available? So they showed him as a day one release character. There was 3 other question marks. We know that he was number 2 of the 4. We believe the first one was Ant-Man, which was shown at the last, or the first, I guess, reveal trailer back at, I think it was E3 last year, where they first unveiled everything. And so Ant-Man, Hank Pym was they talked about future characters, and then they teased him as I guess the first one coming to the game. So with Ant-Man and Hawkeye pretty much confirmed, who are the next 2 to be there on day one. There's a lot of speculation on who it can be. I'm interested to see where they can go with this, because they have the whole universe at hand. And then they kind of flash forward and talked about the future, which is called Avengers Initiative, which is what they're calling the future ongoing platform of the game, where you have the war zones, you have missions where you're coming together with new Avengers as they add more characters, and there's new missions and new objectives and new enemies get introduced, and essentially the ongoing task of the heroes and what you'd be expecting to do after you're done the campaign. So they said that, again, there's 80 missions to start, but there's going to be lots more added, and everything is absolutely free. All new characters would be free. At least that's what it sounded like, right? They didn't specify that missions are free, but characters are paid. My understanding was all new content is free, right? That's what you heard.
That's how they made it sound, for sure.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll have to see when the time comes. But they made it sound everything was free.
The only thing I figured if they're going to charge for would be cosmetic costumes for the characters. So everyone, because especially if you're going to be playing online, and at least at the start, you can't have 3 Iron Mans on a team. It's 1 Iron Man, one of each unique character on these in these war zones, because they want it to be like you're playing this through a story. So it doesn't make sense to have 2 Iron Mans together. But the cosmetic skins of them, that doesn't change the skills and the accessibility of the game. Anyone can play with a Hawkeye that's available. But if you want to have this specific version of Hawkeye, then you pay money perhaps for certain costumes and stuff, or special costumes, because it looks like there's already a bunch in the game. Based on the trailer we saw Hulk with at least 3 or 4 different skins. We saw Iron Man with 3 or 4 different skins. So I'm pretty sure there's quite a bit of stuff to collect from that perspective as well.
Yeah. So there'll be a lot for all the different game types. Those that like to play the single player campaign, those that like multiplayer, those that like to do, unlock everything, customizations, collectibles, all those people. There'll be lots of options for them. So, each person can play the way that they want, especially with the customization for each character. My Thor can be different than your Thor depending on how we each customize them. And it looked
Mhm.
like there was at least 4 slots that you could drop down and do customizations for.
Yeah.
So it would be very interesting as well.
They did mention one of the trees would be available for beta. The other three would be not available until the game
Locked. That's
launches,
right.
right? Which
Yeah.
makes me wonder, well, why would they say the other three would be available at launch? Does that mean that your progression will carry over? Because why would it need to mention to say there will be one tree available for you, and then all of them will be available at launch? They said the other three will be available at launch. So to me, that sounds like, oh, you'll have one unlocked, and then when it launches, you'll get the next three versus you'll start again from scratch. So I don't know. It's up in the air with betas. Usually they reset everyone to zero when it's done to
Yeah.
make it an even playing field. But if the majority, I mean, the beta is for people who have pre-ordered. So there isn't any harm from letting people keep their progression per se, with the exception of, I think they said that on the 7th was the PlayStation 4 beta, and then the Xbox and PC beta will be the week after August 7th was PlayStation 4. August 14th was the Xbox and PC.
Xbox.
And then the
Yeah.
following week would be an open beta, which I
Everyone.
assume is for anyone.
Correct. They said it was open for everyone. Yeah.
So that means even if you didn't pre-order. So, I mean, obviously those people who didn't pre-order, I would assume they wouldn't keep their progression unless that's their hook. They play, they liked it. Okay, buy the game and you can continue. You don't have to restart. And that might be another like way to get people
trying to get them hooked in.
to buy.
Yeah. Now, the other thing is they might unlock as you progress through the storyline as well.
Yes, you're
another
right.
thing. So once you launch, you start to go more into the actual storyline. Those other categories may unlock once you hit a certain point or so on. So
Yep, they talked about ultimate abilities and special abilities and stuff like that. And one of the ultimates was Iron Man's Hulkbuster suit, which he
yes,
gets it, and he has a whole bunch of different ways, like new abilities, new ways of fighting. It's like a brand new character you get to be. So if the ultimate is like that for every character, people like Hulk, who doesn't have like a new suit of armor or anything, like, does that mean he just gets new abilities, or does this mean that, oh, he's gonna get his World War Hulk, weapons, and then now he's gonna fight with a sword and shield and stuff like that? I don't know. I'm very interested to see how that goes, because I thought an ultimate, like most games, is just one big powerful move, but it looks like it's a whole new way to play, temporarily, anyway.
I mean Hulk could maybe get bigger and bigger because the more I guess in some comics and such, the more damage he takes, the bigger he gets.
Yeah, the angrier
So
he gets.
maybe
Yeah.
that maybe he gets bigger, and then he can kind of smash more and do that kind of stuff.
That would make
Thor, I would
sense.
just assume gets more power from his hammer and like more electricity and that kind of stuff. Maybe,
Yeah, and then you could
but
see
we'll have to
someone
see.
like Ant-Man who becomes
Yeah,
Giant Man. He grows bigger
Giant
and bigger
Man.
and bigger, where he normally gets
Yeah,
small and resizes, but he can actually become Giant Man during the Ultimate. So there's a lot of possibilities there on how they approach that. Like Captain America, he changes the suit. He's still Captain America. So I'm curious to know,
yeah.
like, what's he gonna do? Is he gonna get like the double shield,
Upgrade his shield, yeah, or
right,
something. I don't
and do
know.
something like that? Like, it's really cool to see the possibilities. Or maybe for certain heroes, it is just a really strong move that you can use multiple times, or we'll have to wait and see. But I'm really excited to see what they do, especially because the heroes are so varied. Someone like Hawkeye, who's all ranged and arrows and stuff like that, versus someone like Cap, who's up close and personal, with the exception of when he throws his shield, he's all punching, kicking, and hand-to-hand combat.
Definitely.
It'll be interesting to see how they keep that feeling fresh without just being, oh, this ability gives them another punch, another kick. How are they gonna how to change that up with the different skill trees. So I'm really excited to see how that's gonna play out. I got a little bit of a Marvel Ultimate Alliance vibe from the harm room specifically, where you're going in there beating waves of enemies, getting bonuses and leveling up, and that was a grind from Ultimate Alliance. It was all about the beat 'em up essentially. But this talks a lot about teamwork, and I'm curious to know, will they have team up attacks and stuff like Ultimate Alliance, or will it just be you each do your own attacks? Like, I can't remember if in the last stream did they talk about like Thor or Iron Man charging up his laser and bouncing it off Cap's shield, like we've seen in the movies and seen in other games. I don't know if that's a possibility or not.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing anything like that, or hearing anything about team power ups or supercharges or anything like that. But it's definitely a possibility or something that they could bring into the future in DLCs and future content. So, at this point, nothing's off the table for them. They can pretty much change it up as they see, add new abilities, add new characters, missions, as we've stated before and stuff. So they can add a lot, especially in any kind of Marvel universe, especially Avengers.
Hmm.
Lots and lots of opportunities, lots of different universes, so you can kind of mix match into different dimensions, kind of as well.
Yeah, and if they really want to go forward eventually, and they want to add special skins and stuff like that, like I said, they can charge for that. But if they really want, there might be someone that's like, you know what, my favorite character is Iron Man. I want to play online as Iron Man, but there's three of my friends want to be Iron Man. This sucks. Like I don't want to level up my Hulk, or I don't want to play this character. They could introduce the multiverse, or the multiple Earths and all that kind of stuff, and then explain why that there's different Iron Mans. They could decide to do that down the road and make that a special event, and now you can play same characters on a map together with friends.
Yeah.
So that'd be cool as an option. But I think the biggest exciting thing is, again, the new characters, how they're going to introduce them. That'll be new single player content as well as multiplayer content, and how that's going to add legs to the game more than it's already going to have. We expect there are going to be big raids in these war zones, big like bosses that you need like specific, if not specific builds, specific characters. Are going to need someone that can take a lot of damage. You're going to need someone that can do a lot of damage from mid range. Some people that's up close, some people that's healing or adding support. Very Destiny style or something like that. You'd expect something like that. You feel accomplished when you've taken it down, because it's not just get in there and just keep spamming an attack button, right? So with the possibility of brand new characters and the options are endless. I'm really, really stoked that we know we're getting 4 more at launch. At least that's what it seemed like. It looked like the 4 more at launch. And then they talked about future, and they showed more question marks pop up, right? So I assume that 4 more heroes will join them at launch. And I'm kind of curious as to what the other 2 will be. A lot of people are thinking Captain Marvel to have another big female, right? We have Kamala Khan.
They could also have the Wasp.
You could have the Wasp to go with
Ant-Man. She was part of the original Avengers as well.
Yes, that's true.
And stuff, so.
And if they're going with the originals, that makes sense. But if they're going to introduce Ant-Man and they already have a shrinking character, would they want something that's a little bit more varied? I don't know. You could go with, again, something more recent that's been big in the movies, something like a Doctor Strange, some magic. You could go with Black Panther.
Vision.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities.
Bunch of different people, yeah.
And man, like, there's so many reasons you could go with any of these particular people. Will they introduce X-Men into this universe? I wonder. Now that Disney owns it. The Avengers this game is being built by Crystal Dynamics. And I'm kind of curious as to, what rights they have. We know that Spider-Man is a Sony IP, especially in the games and the movies. So, getting Spider-Man would require special approval. I don't expect him to show up, at least not initially. Maybe that would probably be a paid character so that Sony gets more money out of that, right? Yeah. But like X-Men could be a possibility.
Or I mean, even better, I'd love for them to make their own X-Men game down the line.
Oh, yeah.
Similar to this. I mean, that would be great as not quite a sequel, but like a side-by-side game where you can play Avengers game, you can play an X-Men game. You get lots of kind of, superhero characters, different storylines, different missions. Then you double up on the sales as well that way. But,
yeah.
So, it's all about, rights and who has the licenses.
Unfortunately, it's never as easy as you think it would be, right? Make it a superhero game, get all the superheroes. No, it's not that simple. But I think they're on the right track. Like I said, I can't wait. What we'll do is we'll play in the beta and then give you our early impressions on the game before it officially releases and what our thoughts are. If we feel like certain things need to be fixed, or if we're really happy with the way it is. But overall, I think, I know I myself am extremely excited. I'm glad I pre-ordered it. And like I said, for me, it's definitely a game that I at this point, without playing it yet, is a day one purchase for me.
Yeah, it looks very interesting. I'm looking forward to playing it. I jumped the gun, so I pre-ordered it. Then I saw the trailers and stuff, so I canceled my pre-order. So now I'm gonna play off yours and see how it goes.
Give it a go. Get our impressions and see if it's worth the money day one or not.
Exactly.
Now they didn't. I mean, this is Crystal Dynamics, so we don't know. Being a third-party game, it's not going to be part of Game Pass or anything at launch. But I wouldn't be surprised to see this join that eventually. We know that on Xbox for sure, it is offering the free upgrade to Series X. No additional charge. We believe that there is a feature there for PlayStation, but again, PlayStation has not announced what backwards compatibility will be on the PS5, so we're not sure if you just put the PS4 disc in and away you go, or is it going to be a digital upgrade? We don't know, but I'm expecting some sort of similar offer on the PlayStation side. But we'll have to wait and see when that officially comes out.
Yeah, it's disappointing that they haven't announced more for either side,
Yeah.
especially PlayStation. Like a lot's up in the air about PlayStation.
Yeah. They also mentioned some secrets to discover in the beta, and obviously there'll be a lot in the game. And so I'm
Yeah.
interested to know, like, is there going to be like a hidden hero that'll pop up, after you meet some requirement to try out, or do you think it'll just be like a tease, like you'll find, because they talked about collectible comic books and other things you can get. Maybe there's a comic book of a hero that's like the surprise. This will be another release day hero to someone to
But
discover in
I
the
think
beta.
one of the surprise might be like a future villain once you beat this one here, Modoc. To continue on with other missions, I'm sure there'll be other, maybe big villains, smaller, B-roll villains or whatnot. So it might be little hints towards that,
Hmm.
or like you said, new characters that you have to kind of search out and find to unlock.
Yeah, they did mention that the 4 characters that are available in the beta right now for the war zones anyway, because the single player is you're playing whoever they're expecting to play in the single player, but online the 4 are Iron Man, Kamala Khan, Black Widow, and Hulk. Those would be the
Correct.
4 that you can choose from and play with and experiment with. Thor and Captain America are not available, until the full release of the game, and then obviously Hawkeye and Ant Man obviously are not available either. But I think that gives you a nice variety. You got a flying type with Iron Man, and in range you have the melee up close, big powerhouse of Hulk, probably takes a lot of damage. You have a technical character with Black Widow,
Right,
gadgets
gadgets
and
and
like,
hand to hand
yeah,
and
and like flips and stuff, and how she handles kind of be similar to Captain, with the exception of him having a shield and having a mix of range. She has like guns and things like that. So I don't know what she's going to use.
it
Um,
looked like she had like two shock battalion kind of things
oh, that's right. Yeah, she
that
did
she
use
used a
that.
bunch.
Yeah, and then Camilla Khan has her embiggening power, so big
That's
hands,
right.
big legs, whatever, and
And it
crush
was
people.
cool that both Black Widow has the grappling hook. Camilla can use her arms. Iron Man can
Yeah,
fly. Hulk can jump. He gathers more speed the more he jumps. So no one's going to be really slow in this game.
except for
So,
Cap.
yeah, they'll have to find, maybe he'll have a grappling hook or
Or he'll
something,
throw a
or
shield and ride on it somehow. I
slide, yeah, slide
don't
down.
know. But yeah, I mean, like, it makes sense. The gadgets with Black Widow, and you have the arms, right? The
Stretching
stretching
arms,
arms, and
yeah.
then you have Thor can fly. We know Hawkeye has arrows. You could probably have an arrow with a rope, grappling hook, whatever. But
Yeah.
Cap, maybe that's one of the reasons why he dies in the beginning, and maybe you get him, revive him, whatever down the road, or maybe he's just available in multiplayer after that. We don't know officially how the
Yeah.
story will unfold, but it'll be interesting to see how his traversal is and how that works and how he gets around. But I don't know.
I
I'm
mean, he
excited.
has super fast speed as well. Like
Well,
in the
he's
movies,
faster
he
than a
can
regular
run really
person, right?
fast.
But
Yeah.
he's no Flash.
No, no, that's true. But I'm sure they'll just make him be able to run really fast. He was able to catch up to some cars and stuff like that in the movie. So
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sure
true.
with his super serum and super soldier ability, he might have that ability. So that's what I could see them doing.
Absolutely. So to sum up, we're both excited. We're gonna try the beta and give you our impressions, but overall,
Yeah.
we're very optimistic that this game is actually, a lot better than some people kind of came away with the bashing that they got. I think it's definitely improved from what I've seen, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. Give our final impressions.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how it handles and how it feels in the gameplay.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it, folks. That is our thoughts on the Avengers Wartable live stream that happened this past week. Yeah, let us know what you think. What was your most excited moment? Are you interested in this game? Are you going to participate in the beta? Let us know. Drop a comment below. And as always, friends, stay
Stay
nerdy.
nerdy.